Yo, what is going on, guys? Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on the Batman movie. And this will be my video in regards to everything Matt Reeves has revealed to us about the Batman movie at DC FanDome during the Batman panel. And wow, what a way to conclude DC FanDome. We got some very interesting stuff revealed to us during the panel, and let's just say it's like music to my ears. But before I go over anything, however, you guys don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more the Batman content coming your way. Now, something that I didn't mention during my trailer breakdown that I thought I should have mentioned is that in regards to the trailer we saw during DC FanDome, Matt Reeves has revealed to us that they only shot 20% of the movie. Now, I know that the movie wasn't fully finished and stuff, but I didn't know it was 20%, so that is something really interesting. So just think about it this way, guys. With the fact that this insane trailer that blew up the internet only consists of 20% of the movie, just think about how crazy the entire movie is gonna be. I cannot wait to see this movie. This is my most anticipated movie for 2021, and from what we're seeing so far, it looks freaking awesome. Okay, so let's go over what Matt Reeves said during this panel and break it all down. And from the things he said, I will obviously be paraphrasing as I wouldn't be able to remember everything he said word for word. So Matt Reeves starts off by saying that Batman isn't a superhero. So yes, he would take down drug busts. Yes, he would stop criminals. But he's this person who's haunted by his past, and he's a very alive character, and which, in my opinion at least, makes Batman such a great character. Now, in this movie, all the characters we saw, including Batman himself, are far from the characters we know them to be today. This is Batman's journey into being the guardian of Gotham City. This is Bruce Wayne in his early stages of Batman. He's just making his way into heroism. He's still learning how to be Batman. He's not quite there yet. Now, something we already knew but it was still mentioned during the panel is that Bruce was Batman for only 1.5 years. So he's near his second year as Batman. So yes, he's smart. Yes, he's a total badass. But by no means is he the greatest detective yet. So with the fact that the Riddler is the main villain of this movie, and seeing Batman solve the riddles and struggle on the way with it is just so good, because we get to see that journey he goes through and how he becomes the man we know him to be today, how he becomes the Dark Knight, the world's greatest detective. Now, the Batsuit, in fact, was a very interesting thing that Matt Reeves talked about as well. And we find out that Bruce Wayne actually made this suit himself, and the Batmobile as well. So with the Batmobile, he just took a muscle car, added some extra armory to it and stuff, and basically weaponized it. So everything we see over here, Batman related, was made by him. So Lucius Fox doesn't help out with anything. Bruce Wayne literally makes everything himself. So that is something pretty cool. And also another cool thing that was mentioned was the cowl. Now, in regards to the cowl, we find out that Batman, he goes out every night looking for trouble, and we see that in his cowl, and you see those dents and gashes in it, which was a very cool detail that they added into this suit. Now, during this panel, there was obviously Q&A during the panel as well. And director Matt Reeves was asked how people around Gotham see the Batman. And this answer was very, very interesting. And it was something along the lines of, well, if you see a guy dressed as a bat, and because he takes the law into his own hands, he is a vigilante. And you see this guy show up from the shadows and even beat up criminals and confront them, because you know what they're doing is wrong. So what Batman does is that he puts fear into these criminals, that the crimes that they're committing. So you'd obviously think that he is a dangerous person. So that is what actually leads to that scene that we saw during the trailer when the GCPD officers are firing at him and stuff, because obviously they'll think he's a very dangerous person. And we do see that, you know, urban legend starting to become more and more real to Gotham City as the days go by, because Batman's becoming more known to the public. And Matt Reeves also does go on to say that this is the best part in doing a Batman movie, because having that early take on Batman and the other characters, it's never been done before, and having that different take on their early stages is pretty much the best choice, because you have full control over it. Basically, you can basically do whatever you want with it. So in this movie, Batman is trying to find ways to change Gotham City for the better. He wants to protect it, and in his journey we find out that the way he goes isn't the way he wanted to go. So we have him struggling with that. And the great thing is that this is where the murders start kicking in. So this is where the Riddler starts going after those corrupt politicians and starts killing them. So these murders will start reinforcing the history within Gotham City, and Bruce will find out while solving the Riddler's riddles is that he finds out that there is much more corruption in Gotham City than he initially thought there was. And that's what's so intriguing, and is that as Bruce is uncovering this story, it ends up being something that touches him personally in a way. So this leads to Bruce wondering, was my family part of this corruption? Does the name Wayne carry some dirt with it? So something that I think at least will happen as Bruce is solving these murders and tracking down the killers, he finds out that history of corruption in Gotham, he finds out that his family was part of that as well. And I think that would be so cool, and is what takes this story into a detective and a very point of view driven story, and obviously very mysterious, but in the end becomes something incredibly personal to Bruce himself as he unravels that mystery. And what would be so cool about this is that the fact that he wants to combat injustice and he finds out that his family was the very thing that he wants to stop will be very hard for him. So that would be something really, really cool to see in regards to this movie. So when finding out about this left me wondering, does the Riddler know that Batman is Bruce Wayne? Because in the trailer we have that dialogue between each other at the very end where Riddler says, "You're a part of this," and Batman obviously replies, "How am I a part of this?" So maybe as the Riddler goes after the corrupt people, he will eventually go after Bruce Wayne, as the Wayne name carries dirt with it. So this could lead to Riddler going after Bruce Wayne, and he actually finds out that Bruce Wayne is the Batman. Maybe that's something that could do, I don't know. But not just Batman, but this version of the Riddler is nothing like the one we saw before. And the things he does will apparently blow our minds. And so far, from what we've seen in the trailer, that is indeed the case. And these are different takes on different characters. He also mentions the importance and tie-ins to the comics as well. So I really like how Matt Reeves is essentially making his own version of Batman and the characters over there, but also connects these stuff to the comics as well. Now, Matt Reeves does also touch upon the Rogues Gallery and how this is their origins. So he uses Selina Kyle and the Penguin as an example. So Selina Kyle, she isn't Catwoman yet, but she's making her journey into that. And something very interesting we find out as well, Oswald Cobblepot, as I said before, he isn't the Penguin yet. He's still making his way into becoming the Penguin. And one thing we actually find out is that Oswald Cobblepot hates being called the Penguin. So it will be very interesting to see how he starts embracing the name Penguin and how he becomes the man we obviously know him today. And same for the Riddler as well. He isn't that cliche villain we know him to be. The Riddler we know isn't really a killer. He also doesn't wear a mask. He wears a hat and that green suit with the question marks on it. Whereas in his early stages, that's different, and that is what Matt Reeves really emphasizes. So it'll be very interesting to see how these villains in their early stages develop to the versions we know them to be. That will be something that I'm very looking forward to. Now we have Matt Reeves basically talking about the cast as well, and he talks about Alfred and Jim Gordon as well, and how the take they have on Alfred and the Andy Serkis's Alfred, it's a take that we may not have seen before, so it'll be very cool to see how that goes. Maybe we'll see Alfred assisting Batman more in his like crusade as well. Maybe he's the one that helps out with the gadgets and things like that, so that'll be something cool to see. And maybe instead of that, you know, a father-son relationship between Bruce and Alfred, we could have that, you know, type of brotherly relationship maybe. Who knows? For Jim Gordon, he talks about the fact that this is a totally different version of Jim Gordon that we've seen before. And so far from what we're seeing in Jeffrey Wright's performance, I dig Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon. I think he will do an absolutely amazing job at it. And we also have Matt Reeves talking about how these characters, in terms of writing them, was the challenging part, and directing them, because obviously these are them in their early stages, so that was what's challenging about it. But when it actually links to the story that Matt Reeves wants to tell, that is where the exciting part still starts kicking in. And so when Batman solves these murders, you touch on all these iterations of these characters and their beginnings. So that is what's very, very cool, and how Matt Reeves has joined all of that together. And lastly to go over, we have Matt Reeves touching upon why he chose Liverpool to shoot this movie over the other locations. And what he had to say about this was actually quite interesting. And he says that Liverpool is most like Gotham, as there's so much Gothic architecture within it which really fits Gotham City. However, although they're shooting in Liverpool, he also adds that there will be some CGI added to it as well. So there will be some like CGI of buildings added to Liverpool and stuff like that, which leaves people wondering where they actually shot this movie as well. So that is something really cool. And I dig them shooting in Liverpool. I think as well it's such a Gotham City place. Like even in the trailer, like all that dark tones and stuff, it looks very Gotham like. So that is something that is pretty cool. And in terms of the CGI, obviously, as I said, they'll probably take like Times Square or something and CGI it into some filming locations, as I said, to make this their own version of Gotham City, which is the most unique Gotham City as well that we've seen throughout the other Batman movies, which is really, really cool. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Tell me in the comment section down below what you guys think about all of this, and tell me what in the comment section down below which you guys are most excited for in terms of the Batman movie. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.